Hi guys, today I am at the Temple of Heaven in Beijing. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO has called it a masterpiece of Chinese culture, and it really is the embodiment or the architectural embodiment of Chinese cosmology. So we're gonna go check it out. So the Temple of Heaven was originally built in 1420 as the Temple of Heaven and Earth by Emperor Yongle. Later on in 1530, a renovation was taken by Emperor Beijing, who separated the Temple of Heaven and Earth, and he put the Temple of Earth over by the Forbidden City and left this just as the Temple of Heaven. And that's when a few other things were constructed, like the Imperial Vault and the circular altar. The Temple of Heaven was basically used for 3 ceremonies. On the first day of the lunar year, the emperor would come to the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest and pray for a good harvest. During the summer solstice, the emperor would come to the circular altar and pray for rains. But the most important ceremony that they would have here would have been the winter solstice, in which the emperor would come and give thanks for the harvest of the previous year. So behind me is the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest. It's built completely out of wood. They didn't use any nails. It's 38 meters tall and 30 meters in diameter. And this is where the emperor would come to pray for a good harvest. It's a pretty cool building, and it's by far the most iconic building here in the temple complex. It's what we usually think of when we think of the Temple of Heaven. So the first thing that you notice about this edifice when you look at it is that it is round. It's round because in Chinese cosmology, the heavens are round and the earth is square. They have a saying called 天圆地方. Which means the heavens are round and the earth is square. So this particular building is meant to represent the heavens. Now when you go inside, you have 4 columns that are laddered in gold, and they represent the 4 seasons. Behind them you have another 12 columns that represent the 12 months of the year, and when you go up to the top, you can see another 12 columns that represent the 12 partitions of the day. Altogether that makes 28 columns, and altogether they represent the 28 constellations.
Ancient Chinese astronomers treated the night sky as an oracle of divination, and as a calendar to keep track of the seasons, months, and days that accorded with the lunar phases. Cosmographers divided celestial configurations into 3 enclosures, 4 symbols, and 28 mansions. The 3 enclosures marked the visible sky at different times of the year. The passage of the planets across particular stars and constellations would stimulate divination. Polaris was seen as the emperor of the night sky. According to Confucius, a ruler who rules his state by virtue is like the polar North Star, which remains in its place while all other stars revolve around it. The purple forbidden enclosure located in the center region is visible all year round. It houses stars and constellations that represent the emperor and his inner circle of family and officials. The Supreme Palace, located to the northeast, was visible during the late winter and early spring. It housed stars and constellations representing state officials and military personnel, which were gazed upon to divine the universal forces of destruction. The Heavenly Market, located to the southwest, was visible during the late summer and early autumn. It housed stars and constellations representing shops, trade houses, and religious officials, which were gazed upon to divine the universal forces of production. They also divided the sky into 4 symbols that designated both the 4 cardinal directions and the 4 seasons, each representing an element and a virtue. The black tortoise to the north peaked during the winter and symbolized water and longevity. Appearing in the east during the spring, the azure dragon symbolized wood and benevolence. Situated in the south, the red bird featured during the summer and symbolized fire and fortune. And located in the west, the white tiger was prominent during the autumn and symbolized earth or metal and protection. These 4 symbols housed 7 mansions each. The moon would pass through each mansion in a different phase, allowing astronomers to track the days and months of the lunar year. Birthdays and festivals were arranged accordingly. Thus, the phases of the moon, the dancing of the planets, and the wobbling of the sky moved in harmony with individuals' destinies, the changing of the seasons, and civilizational cycles of production and destruction.
So this building, this edifice, is really the architectural embodiment of Chinese cosmology. It's how the Chinese saw the structure of the heavens and sought to encapsulate that structure in a construction. So it's pretty cool. So I'm standing in front of the Imperial Vault. This was built between the circular altar and the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest. This was built as a part of Emperor Jiajing's restorations in 1530, and it was used to house a lot of the ornaments and tablets that they would use in the ceremonies over on the circular altar. To the east here, you have the Temple of the Yang, which is basically the temple that's built to worship the god of the Yang, which would be basically the god of the sun, the god of Polaris, and the god of the planets. Over here on the west side, you have the temple that was dedicated to the god of the Yin, and the Yin would represent the moon, the clouds, and the rains. And so them coming together would represent most of Chinese cosmology. So here you have a nice little architectural display of the yin and yang.
The yin and yang, or the taiji, is a dialectical formulation that emphasizes the complementarity of opposites. In terms of the heavens, this emphasizes not only the harmony between the lunar and solar cycles, but also in terms of the weather. Productive harvests required a harmonious mix of the sun and rain in order to successfully yield crops. It was believed that the proper performance of rites and rituals at this temple would ensure the dialectical harmony of the heavens.
So now we're coming up to the circular altar. Now it may seem the most plain out of all the buildings, but this was probably the most important. It was built in 1530, and this was to become the area where all of the ceremonies would take place. Well, particularly the most important ones, which was the summer and winter solstice.
The winter solstice ceremony was performed to show gratitude and reverence to the heavens for the previous year's harvest. Preparations for the ceremony would begin the day before, when the emperor would leave the Forbidden City and travel to the Temple of Heaven, accompanied by a large procession of guards, chariots, banners, and animals. The procession would pass in silence and was closed to the public. When the emperor arrived at the temple grounds, he would spend the evening purifying himself by praying, fasting, and meditating. The chimes of the bell of harmony at 4 a.m. would begin the ceremony. First, they would burn pine boughs to cleanse the altar and welcome the emperor. The ceremony itself was divided into 9 parts. The first 3 parts of the ceremony would involve the emperor ascending each set of 9 steps of the altar, presenting different offerings and sacrifices, such as jade, silks, wine, and meat. The next 3 parts consisted of the emperor praying at the altar, while music and dances were performed in the background. The final 3 steps centered around burning the offerings and sacrifices, sending them to the heavens. These rituals played an important role in aligning the forces of heaven, earth, and humanity, as well as connecting descendants to the knowledge and wisdom of their ancestors.
As you can see, in the middle there is a single stone which represented basically the nexus between heaven and earth. And around that stone you have 9 concentric stones, and every concentric circle is organized according to 9. So they have 9 and then 18 stones, 27, and so on to the final ring, which is 81 stones. The number 9 is really important in Chinese numerology because it has the same phonetics as the word for long or eternity. So 9 always meant eternity or forever, jiao. So you have like the 9 stones. You also have 9 steps. There's 3 pedestals that come up, and they are separated, each one of them, by 9 steps. And yeah, so I'm standing on the center stone right now. Oh yeah, it's kind of weird. You can hear the acoustics. They kind of bounce off of all the walls and stuff. That's really, really funky. It sounds like my voice is echoing. I don't know why it's doing that. That's so strange. Anyway, yeah, they have some strange acoustics. So the emperor used to stand here and pray to heavens, and pray to the heavens, and thank the heavens for the harvest. And that's basically what the winter solstice was all about. What's striking about this particular edifice is that while all the others are done up with these nice buildings, this one is really just this plain sort of flat surface. But when you look at it from a certain angle, it really does look like a temple to heaven, because it doesn't really have anything except for the heavens above it. So behind me is the firewood stove, and if we look over here, we've got a few. It's supposed to be 12, but they only seem to have 8 out here of these cauldrons. Now, in Chinese cosmology, fire and smoke is how you sent things to the gods and to the heavens. So at first, when they began their ritual of the winter solstice, these cauldrons would be lit up with pine boughs, and that would be to welcome the god of the heavens to the ceremony. Later on, after they were finished their rituals, they would burn all of the offerings to send them up to the gods. And so, yeah, that's why these are significant. So that was my day at the Temple of Heaven. It was a pretty cool site. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe or put some comments down, and I will see you in the next one. Hey.